All right. Hello. Do I have this on? Let me see. Are you on? Nope. Mike. Yep. That would be it. Hey.
Morning.
How are you?
Tired. How are you?
All right. So, yeah.
Well, the whole spiral thing, I've been looking at it and it's like, I don't know if it's just simply because the mind can really wrap itself around it. And that's what makes it so powerful because it allows you to feel, to put the concepts we've been feeling on something tangible,
Yeah.
or whether it's just the whole thing. But I mean, I see that, like you were saying, God, now I can't even remember, of course. But it's like as you interact with the energies of something that's really needing to have your attention to either let go of it or release it, or whatever word you want to put on it. It's like the spiral gets, I don't want to say stuck,
Mm-hmm.
but the the spiraling gets tighter, and it just keeps hitting you with it until you allow it to let go, or whatever you need to do or be,
Mm-hmm.
to allow it to then flow bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I've sort of noticed, although I was really in resistance to looking at it because I was just so cranky.
Yeah, get the cranky.
Saturday morning. Although it's funny because I had that great sound bath meditation thing that I went to Friday night and it was fabulous and I felt
Right.
great. And I was like, oh yeah, that felt like that just cleared out a whole bunch of crap. And then of course it probably just brought it all up to the surface because then Saturday morning I woke up and it was like, rah, rah, rah. So
Or cleared away what was distracting you from the other.
yeah, because when I was out there Friday night, it was really I was able to have a lot of real clarity because there was no distractions. It was almost like there was my safe space, or not safe space, but there was my focus space, that I've been looking for and haven't had or like not had pure access to for a while. So that was good. And then yeah, so Saturday night I woke up and I was like, "Rah!" and then I just decided I was going to remember my bliss in every moment and have a good
Right.
time, which we had a great time Saturday. That was good. And then yesterday I was okay. Although I did manage to avoid meditation, but I did okay most.
Yeah, well, mine have been, I guess yesterday was kind of short.
Yeah.
Fridays was great. Fridays was really
So,
good.
but the
But
thing that I was actually, I want to say that I didn't have my formal meditation yesterday, but I did do a lot of reflecting yesterday because there was some interesting stuff that came up, and that's where I was looking at. So, since we're recording this, and yes, it's a continuous conversation that
right.
people might not get. It's so the concept of the spiral. Oh, please repeat what I had talked about. Came from a class that we're doing in terms of we're upgrading and updating the Trinity practitioner in one class and talking about incorporating some new concepts. In the middle of the class, a huge epiphany came and clarity on how to see it last week. And it's like I know it, but it really was challenging to explain it. Like even when it came in, I was like, oh, what are the words that go with this?
Well, and I think that was what made it so powerful, was that it was beyond the words.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a magnetic pull to my heart. And so, like, I know this. Instead of just know it, I know this.
Right.
I remember this, and I remember the power of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, I remember what it was. Yeah, no. So, like the closest, let me just do this for the benefit of the recording so that we
Yeah.
have this like anchored in as to where we're going to go from here. Uh, the closest that I could come to explaining it, and if you could think of better words, then please add in, is the, as like in Trinity, we entrain ourselves and clear out all this crap that prevents us from living as the divine consciousness as we are, because we've forgotten, we live in lack, we pretend it's outside of us, but it's really recognizing, remembering that it's all within. And so it starts even in the class that you get entrained in terms of, and the entrainment really is a massive amount of clearings to allow you to function as a divine consciousness again, in that infinite ability, which you are functional in by the time you are done with it. But here's the concept that we were talking about, and this goes not just with Trinity, but any practice, which is that we, of course, are always divine. We're always the divine consciousness, but it's a matter of allowing us to embody that fully. And when we talk about why it's important to have that unconditional self-love, and why that's the first and primary, basically the primary purpose of everything, so that we will, when we are in an unconditional self-love, we are the divine consciousness. We allow ourselves to be so 100%. But the thing is, until we get to that unconditional self-love, we're not there 100%. Like, we can be, 50%. I don't even know what the percentage would be. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably even lower than that, right?
Yeah, we've been so far away from it. It could be 2%.
Yeah. And so
feel huge.
Right. So, we could be at 50% and feel, oh my God, so powerful. And yet we're only allowing ourselves to access that, to embody and be the divine consciousness 50%, because we still have beliefs, and we still have, beliefs of lack and limitation and agreements and stuff that cause us to allow ourselves to be that 50% instead of 100%. And so, part of as we work on what we call clearing out stuff, and we step into that power more, the more we get into that place of unconditional self-love, and that's the clearing out stuff so that we can remember that that's what we are, the more of a percentage we become, we allow ourselves to be that full embodiment. And some may say, no, you can't do that. But yes, you absolutely can, because it's all belief. If we say we can't, then we won't. If you say, well, we can't be in separation in the body and be 100% divine consciousness, well, then that's a belief. Because I even balked at that, saying, well, can we? Well, of course we can. Well, what do you mean, can we? That, of course we can be here 100%.
Right. And I feel like that the energies as the earth and the multiverse and everything shifting, is that whether we believe it or not, it's going to happen anyway.
Right. And so the thing is, as we continue, and the purpose of self work, as we call it, is that remembering, continually focusing on remembering unconditional self-love at 100%. When we're there 100%, that's where divine consciousness, we allow ourselves the power of divine consciousness 100%. That's the Christed consciousness that people talk about. That's, I guess, enlightenment, which we already have. It's just remembering it. It's all about the remembering. So of course, many have asked about the question of, well, why do I have the same thing come up again and again if I've cleared it before? And so when I saw this whole picture, it was like, well, it's really a spiral, because if you're, say, at 50% and you do you shift your vibration to hold a certain thing, so it's a clearing in a sense, well, then you might, yeah, of course, you're going to attend to that particular lesson or whatever it is that was holding you in lag, but then it's only at 50%. So when you get to, say, 60% or 70%, it's a spiral, because then it's like, well, then there's still some crumbs that are left because you only allowed yourself access to it at that, 50 or whatever percent. So this is really challenging in words, but it's almost like that's why we have that repetition. But
Right.
Then if we notice as we go along, as we become more, as we allow ourselves to be more conscious and be in that higher percentage of consciousness as the divine, then we pick up the crumbs and we get frustrated. and it feels like a spiral, and that it's like, well, why are we back here? Why am I, or sometimes we think we're in a circle and we're like, why am I back here? Why am I back here? And it's like, yeah, but if we notice, it's never the same. Right. And that's where we're starting this conversation is, I sort of threw that out there Thursday, got cranky about it Friday, clear out a bunch of stuff Friday night, then got cranky again Saturday. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to flow with this. And,
one of the things I wrote down when we were having that call was that, the way I saw it is when things kept coming back up, we kept saying, well, they're tests, or it's to see if we've really cleared it out, or whatever word you want to call it. But, and everybody, not everybody, but I think the majority of people would look at it as, they would judge it as in, well, it didn't work, or, I didn't do it, or I didn't release this, or as a failure, when actually it represents growth and success, because it's that movement and that allowing you to, okay, so you've addressed the energies at this level, now expand and address them at this level. And it should, I hate to use the word should, I see it as it's a milestone in your progression.
Yeah.
And that it's hugely successful.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And it's funny because the things that came up to well, and then the things that come up are things like something came up yesterday morning. And I was saying, I don't know when, someone at the beginning of this conversation, that I didn't have a formal meditation, with self-work yesterday, but I was reflecting all day. I was very conscious of everything
right
that was coming through. And so I had this, I knew how many times we've done these things, and it's like, well, why is this still here? Why did this come back?
Well, it's still an issue.
Didn't this get resolved already? Right. So it was interesting because that was what I was reflecting on yesterday, and then I was like, oh, well, this is that spiral thing. This is a perfect, whatever. There are 2 or 3 things that came up, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Well, and it's perfect because as you address an issue, you're looking at it from this perspective, and that allows you to expand to this perspective. So that same energy has a whole different view from this perspective.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you would then address the energies at this perspective.
Right.
And then as you spiral and, allow it to expand and flow, your perspective changes. So the energies that you're addressing, it may appear the same to the ego. Like, I've already done this. Why am I having to do this? But it's not.
Yeah.
It's a completely different set of energies because your perspective has expanded.
Yep. I had a
Charlie biting his foot.
What was that?
He's chasing his foot. He doesn't have any toys in here.
Hey, whatever it takes to keep themselves occupied, right? The one thing that hit me in a funny way was I had a dream yesterday morning that I woke up that I had, and it was funny because at first I was questioning. My grandmother came to visit me in this dream, right? And I felt like the end of the dream was there to punctuate what she had said so that I would remember the dream, right? So I woke up because it was horrible. Like, in the dream, it was horrible to the ego because in the dream, it was this situation where I had Sierra killed. Because it was for some reason, it was for
advantageous for you.
Well, it was the higher good for whatever, and I saw that and I was just like, oh, and then I mean, afterward, I was just like, I can't believe that. I can't believe I did that. I mean, and I was like going through that at the end of the dream, and I woke up and it was like, oh my God, with this pit in my stomach. Right? And I'm like, and I recalled a lifetime that I had remembered where I'd also given her up as a child bride because I was a single, Like I was a widow in a royalty family, and to maintain my status, I had to make sure one of my children married, into that.
Right.
And she was like 11 years old or something crazy like that. And I
Yeah.
woke up and that made me sick. Like, and I'm like, oh my God, this is my youngest child.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so that's weird. And then I was like, well, that's weird. And I said, well, I thought I had taken care of that and, completed all
Right.
that before. And I was like, because, we obviously don't want our children to be our sacrificial lambs. Right.
Well, yeah.
So, and I actually recall, so I was like, okay, well, let's make sure we resolve and complete that one, whatever little piece of it that's left, and that she doesn't have to take the fall for anything, or do something for the greater purpose, or like lose her own stuff or whatever. And I was just like, let's be free of all that and have that completed. Because there's nothing that's showing that way now, but it's almost like if it came up, obviously there's a crumb, right?
Right.
And then
perspective.
Yeah. And then, so that one really took me by surprise. The other one it was just interesting because it's just unusually financially tight in my household this month. And
post holidays.
And it's not usually this like as tight as it is right now. And I haven't, and I've found myself in this like this moment of,
why am I having to look at this again?
I don't feel like this again. Yeah. But the thing is, I know the money's coming in, and I know it, and I see it, and it's a very short period of time, but it's like right now I feel like, can I feel any more like dried up,
Yeah. No, I exactly feel the same way.
And so I was like, okay, so I know this is very short and punctuated, right? And I'm like, so why do I even have it at all anymore, right? Because I haven't even had this at all for a long time. So then I'm like, okay, well, obviously it has to do with this cycle thing. And it's like, well, part of that is because, it's funny. Money is a thing that everybody gets to at some point right? Yeah. In some way, shape or form. The fear of losing it, the fear of having it, the need and all kind of stuff.
Want.
Yeah. And
okay. So as you're talking about that and thinking about what we did last week with time, I'm sitting here visualizing a spiral.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And the energies of, say, like money, like we're talking about, is in this portion.
Yeah.
Resistance or whatever is over here. So as you spiral, you pass through it and you come back and you pass through it again and you revisit it. What if we aligned with the spiral, but not needing to respect the timing of it, taking out time as a constraint, and allow us to climb the spiral this way instead of this way?
Just right through the middle.
Well, think about it. So like if you get to where we're at the finances or abundance or whatever word you want to put on it, and you find there's resistance, why just resolve it there? Use the tool of time and resolve it this way to prevent having to spiral through it again.
Right. Well, of course. And the part of it had to do with our consciousness of it, right?
Right, because spiral is time related, because at a different point in time, you're at a different place on the spiral.
That's true. It's true. And, what's interesting is because this is, like I said, it's a very protracted thing, and it's just been an unusual kind of perfect storm kind of thing going on. And I was like, well, all right, I know it's short term. I know it's very short period. And I'm like, and so I did notice that it doesn't bother me as much as it used to, right?
But there's still something there.
There's still something there.
Well, and the question of why should I have to do this?
Exactly. Why even at all, right? Even if a couple of weeks, why even at all?
Why is it in my consciousness?
Right, because there's been so much flow and so much abundance and all that kind of stuff. So I just looked at that, and it's like, well, actually, when I look at the bigger picture, it's like, well, it's not that bad, right? But what happens is a habit to fall into this place of a temper tantrum, so to speak.
you get conditioned to feel you need to react in this way to something that's come into your purview, whether it's, a declining balance in your bank account
Yeah.
invokes or just out of the habit certain emotions and reaction and behavior.
Right. And I think even more so when you're used to it being solid and, supported, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's like, wait, what happened to everything? It just sort of like fell out. And it's like, huh. But the funny thing is, it's like, well, I know that I know it's short term. I know it's very short term. And it's like, so.
Well, but is that a no or a no?
Yeah.
So, and what I hear is that, yeah, it's a no, but there's still a little bit of no.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I know, because obviously if I still get triggered by it at all, right, even if it's 5 minutes.
Right. Which, what I'm also hearing is that, knowing from here assumes the trust is built in. Whereas when you know it here, you have to address the trust separately.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So, and it's almost like as we get into this higher level, I mean, because we really have jumped up in such many of us who've done this, constant work, especially we've gone through these major shifts, and we've had another major shift in the past month. And it's like, I think as we're really leapfrogging through that percentage that we're allowing ourselves of consciousness, right?
Right.
That we do see it from a different perspective, and it is easier to just sort of wash it away, right? But obviously it doesn't serve us to be there, or else it wouldn't come up to trigger us, right?
Right.
Whatever's left. And so we keep on saying that, and that's why it'll come back. So, hold on a second. Okay. Bathroom break. Yeah, so it's just been and there was a third thing. What was the other thing that hit me? That was another pattern. But I have noticed that the stuff coming in, when it does, if it's a repetitive thing, it's very short and protracted now, and very usually very specific. Like literally I call it a crumb. Oh, right. You missed this crumb.
Or molecule. I mean, it's just that one little molecule. And it's almost like the intensity is what it is because it was the beginning of that resistance pattern behavior, whatever you want to call it. And so it's almost like the most intense, but yet almost like a bubble popping.
Mm-hmm.
If you allow it.
Right.
Because if you hold on to that,
yeah,
then it can be very different.
Well, yeah. And what was I going to say about that? Crap. I just totally lost my train of thought.
Well, I just feel like trust plays so much in this.
It does. And, and the thing is, part of us talking about this and recording it or whatever, because people have been asked about it, but our discussions, but, in reality, if somebody looked in from the outside, of all the details and stuff, they would be like, well, it's really, what are you having a little fitty about, what are you having a little temper tantrum about and whatever. And it's, of course, that's our trigger of, whatever. And it's actually, really good. But the thing to remember is whether you're 30%, to put words to it or some kind of comparative thing, because that's what the mind wants, is whether you're at 30% or 70% or 90% or 98%, you still have things that come up. It's just that you tend to react less. It was funny because people have said to me, you never seem to get pissed off. You always seem to be so even keel. I'm like, well, okay, you should ask my husband about that because obviously I have those moments.
Right.
But the thing is, the more we focus on that self-love and that, remembering our consciousness, not even raising, because raising implies that it's outside of us, but it's like raising the allowance of remembrance,
Right, right.
The more that we get to that place, like, like I was saying, even the little blip on getting irritated about finances. And I was just like, oh, but you know what? The universe always takes care of it. It always like rights itself. It's all fine. And like, you get into a place of going, okay, yep. And so I am present in this moment and I have everything I need in this moment. And I'm just going to move into, this next moment,
And I'm going to allow everything in this moment,
Yes.
which is where the trust comes in.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's where the spiral, maybe that's what it is. That's where you can skip up levels of the spiral, is when you just allow in that moment.
Well, and you realize that there is no up in the spiral, right? Because there's no time.
Exactly.
To say it's all one little blip, right?
Right.
And it's not even a blip because it's only an illusion, right? So
right.
The more we recognize that, the less we let things really trigger us that much. Like we get triggered and then it's gone. We get triggered and it's gone. And then eventually you just stop getting triggered. And so, the thing is, do you attach yourself to it? If you attach yourself to it, you drag it along with you. Like even if it was 5 moments ago, you bring it back to here. If you continue that trigger, that's part of that unattachment.
Right. And that's the ego saying, well, but I have to control this.
Yes.
I have to manage this. Yeah. I have to.
Why isn't this the way I want it to be or how I expect it to be?
And it's not going to work right unless I control how it unfolds.
Right.
Yeah. Which I think that's huge for because it's going to unfold whether you're active in this process or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was a yawn.
Oh yeah.
So it's grasping it and remembering it. Well, again, outside of space and time, right? So like last week we were talking about the time thing.
Right. Well, and what I saw, I guess it was yesterday in the quick meditation I did, was that it was so much about the interaction of, or the, I was thinking, for some reason I was drawn to agreements, and maybe it was through some things that had come up, like in observing business interactions, that, well, it's agreements. Well, and this group came together and agreed to do this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, okay, let's, haven't we released all the agreements that we have with everybody in our family and all this kind of stuff? And it's like, it's that spiral thing. And it's like, well, if we go back to the original agreement and release that, and that's when I came into the agreement to have separation.
Right.
And it's like, if you look at things from the perspective of allowing that to release, it just expands so many things.
No, or allowing ourselves to just be, not talking about releasing, but just allowing ourselves to be free of that. Right.
Right.
To be free, to be both separated and
to be an observation of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no reason why, just like you said at the beginning, there's no reason why we can't be in separation and in wholeness or unity or whatever at the same time.
Right. Exactly.
And play the game and not play the game all at the same time.
Right.
Wow.
Well, and then it becomes so much more fun anyway. Right?
I know. And then the spiral becomes, well, that's the game, because it's all within the wholeness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So simple. And yet such a big concept.
Wow. And again, I feel like, haven't we done this? Haven't we looked at this?
Well, we have, except that now we're at a different percentage.
Well, and we're in a different place of observation and a different place of trust.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at such a different place of everything.
Agreed. Agreed.
And there's the yawn.
Yeah, another one. And
Yeah, I just feel tingly from head to toe from
it's
that.
it's like being yeah, well, that's that whole being in this world and not of it, right? Being not just in this world, but just being in separation and not of it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's it's like being your God, I can't even think of it. Being your avatar.
Yeah. And beyond that even.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
Because I was thinking, it's funny you say that because I was thinking about that this weekend. Actually, before this weekend, it was like on my mind a lot last week, and it's like, well, we're all of it. Oh, see, there's more yawns. And for those who are not, understanding of that, the yawns are like the big, usually intake of some spiritual energy, remembrance that comes through. So the there's so many levels. There's just so many levels of stuff. Like I've been able to see now so many simultaneous levels of things
oh,
that
I
it would take
know.
me so long to explain. And actually,
Right.
what was really funny was in a book I was reading, A Wrinkle in Time, which I was reading last night.
Yeah.
There was this one woman who, she's so out of, let's see, how do I explain this? She's so in a different dimension of consciousness
Right.
that the only way she knows how to communicate is through quotes from here, right? So she just always quotes things, right? It's funny because when we talk about that, right, um so there's a French statement and I was like, oh my God, it's so perfect because we say this all the time. And I can't remember who she said this. It was qui plus c'est, plus c'était, which means one who knows, basically it's one who knows says very little. Like the more you
Right.
know, the less you say.
Right.
That's pretty
Right.
much. And I was like, oh, that's so perfect because we talk about how, I see so many things and so many levels of things, and I see how it all fits together in like every moment.
Right.
And yet I don't want to sit there and explain it in words.
Well, and you dumb it down when you do.
Yep. And it's that perception. And yeah, we do these like, and talking here. So we're talking out where we have like a hiccup so that it just flows even more. So then what would be our big focus then for today in terms of,
Well, I think that if we can either allow the remembrance or embody the remembrance of time being a tool within the spiral of separation from a place of wholeness. Oh God, that feels so good. Not sure I could say it again.
yeah, shh, I'm writing it down. I might just lose it.
I know. Oh, I feel it on.
To allow embody the remembrance of time being a tool. And what was the last part? Do you even
A
remember?
tool within the spiral of separation from a place of wholeness.
I would add to that. Hold on, I just wanted to write this down so we didn't lose that one.
Yeah.
Be a tool. Do you want to call it the spiral of separation? I like to call it the spiral of remembrance myself. Because that's where we came to this. Oh, that's right. Because I was talking about that spiral of remembrance.
Oh, yeah. The only reason I referred to it as separation was to get the resolution between separation and wholeness. So I guess it's just semantics.
Because it's funny you say the spiral of separation. I think of spiraling out.
But if you think of spiral as the process of separation,
Yeah.
it's
But
almost like, gosh, something just flashed up. Like, it's almost like the creation of separation is ongoing and changing, and that it's like we. I just Men in Black has such good visuals. It's like, it's that place in the locket, in the cat's necklace of that whole universe, and that it's ever changing and evolving, but yet it's held separate. And I see that as the spiral. But
what if we allow the spiral to not be separate anymore and just to allow it to assimilate into the whole, right?
right,
To observe it and allow it, which is what you're saying, to allow and embody. To observe, allow, and embody it without. No, I don't know that I would say embody. To observe and allow it.
we're already embodying it. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. We are.
Yeah.
We need to allow the observation of it.
Yep. To observe and allow the observation of that spiral. Yeah, that feels good. Well, and I would say the observation of the spiral of remembrance, because the spiral of remembrance, to me, it makes it feel like the spiral is coming out into the whole, right? Or being a part of, like, because, you envision in your mind in separation what a spiral tends to go outward, right? So you want it,
Or it could go inward, like you said,
or
if
to go
that's
inward,
the
right?
separation. Right.
Right. So actually, it would be the same, right?
It would.
The
Spiral
spiral
of
of separation
separation comes
and
in,
remembrance.
spiral of remembrance. Perfect. What a great analogy or image.
Of, well, and in a way, isn't that really what the torus is in the body, the energetic torus? Because
You're so right. Well, and the earth.
yeah, everything. Yeah, yep.
Well, and I keep visualizing like the spiral nebulas and
And there's the Trinity all over again, right? That wholeness of separation, duality, and wholeness together, right?
right.
The completion. Oh, look at that. We just tied it up in a nice little bow.
That's right. Okay, we're done.
We're done. All right. Now we pop out of existence.
That was right. Poof.
Oh, now the fun really starts. So,
Right.
yeah. To be completely in observance of that in all directions, right? To see. Oh yeah, that feels. Oh yeah, and now I feel all tingly.
I
Oh
know.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like to not be a prisoner to it, to only need to observe it, right?
Well, and to be the tool master, not the tool slave.
Yes. Right. Oh
Which
yeah.
all comes down to that power thing.
Yeah. Oh, that feels so good. I can already feel it. It's almost like I feel the spirals going through my body. That's really cool.
That is just, so powerful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Yep. Me too. Let's go. All that. Whatever's
Oh,
that.
all that.
As always, very interesting.
That felt so huge.
Yeah, I did. It did. And at first I was seeing like the last couple of weeks, at first it was very 3D-ish kind of things I was seeing. But then I got this whole thing of, well, you can just move from here to here if you're not attached to this. And then, it was funny. It's like I was seeing the spirals, but I was seeing like a whole like ton of them, like, all over the place, and then making up one big one. It was like, oh, of course, because there's that whole concentricity thing. And then it was like, once I realized that, I was like, oh, well, that's not even me. That's just a tool, right? It's in me, it's out of me, or whatever. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's bigger than it. And then I could see little things going on in each of these little spirals or parts of it, or however you want to look at it. And it was like, oh, I could just jump from here to here, or I could jump from here to here. And if I want to, I can just be here, right here, because I just like that part. And it was like, oh, and then there was something that something just shifted at the end. And it was like everything sort of came together, and it was really nice.
I saw you and I standing like face to face, holding arms kind of. And it was us, but us not embodied, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I saw that in the beginning too. And we threw sparkles on each other, like these sparkly. I forgot about that until you just said that. Yeah.
Well, and I saw, it was like we were staring at each other, but if we looked down, we would see the spiral going through us.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And it was like you could see all the spirals within the spiral, and you could see almost like, when you look at a tornado and you see all the junk.
Yes. Yep.
Rotating through it. And it was like, oh, so that stuff's just constantly. And it was like I had that understanding that separation, and that where we were observing from wasn't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it was like, so once the tornado is clear, then all that's left is separation within the wholeness as one. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was just like,
that's what I saw too. Yeah.
It was so in observation, and it was like you could see things get wound up in really tight spirals, and then kind of just like go poof, like it would self-destruct.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that felt so powerful and empowering.
Yeah, and easy.
Oh yeah. I mean, how easy can it get to just observe?
Yeah, it's like. Right. Well, that was the whole thing. Is like, oh, or if I want to go look at this little point here, I can move this point to this point. It was like so easy.
Right.
Yeah. That was very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it was almost like that was the part we needed to be added on from last week, because I'm a little bit disoriented.
Last week seemed to really shake things up, but and I don't want to put any judgment on it, but it seemed to really disorient, like you said. And it was funny because the card I pulled this morning was the Knot of Isis, energetic stabilization with the buckle of the beloved.
Oh, well, you know what mine was. You ready?
What?
It was the Eight of Shells, which is detachment.
Oh, well. Oh, that's that detached benevolence.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Gives the stability.
Of observation. It's the ability to observe, right?
Which we certainly did just observe.
Yeah. Wow. So what was the card about, the Isis card?
It was the Knot of Isis, energetic stabilization with the buckle of the beloved. And it talks about this oracle brings special indication that your soul is braiding or twining with the divine feminine energies in a particular form. So it's integration.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
This process does not make you lose your individuality.
Yeah, it's holding on to separation and the whole,
Hmm.
right? It's the avatar and the individual,
Right.
and if we talk about the divine feminine, as we talk about it as being the energy of wholeness, right?
Right. Says you will not cease to exist as an individual light, and yet you will have grown more into a divine communication with the sacred divine feminine.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that feels good. It feels right. Oh, well, that was lovely.
That was awesome.
So thank you, anybody who's joining us, and I hope you sat in with us because that was fabulous. I'm going to stop the recording now if I can get my mouse to work. There we go. It goes to sleep. So see y'all next time.